Are you a business owner stuck in fear, doubt, and worry about what the marketplace will look like in the future? Then this show is for you. Strap on your seatbelt and get ready to disrupt and innovate. Here's your host, Lisa Levy.
Today, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Kristin Zhivago. She's a maestro of revenue growth and customer-centric sales strategies, and it all starts with an interesting belief. Business isn't about greed. It's about love. Love is taking care of your employees, your customers, and yourself. It's about understanding and supporting the agenda of these three entities and making sure they're all happy with how you're helping them. The businesses who start here and then build an infrastructure make it easy for everyone to get what they need. They will grow faster and more solidly than one that simply focuses on the bottom line. Kristin has seen that this works, and she knows what doesn't, and she's here to dive into her world of empathetic marketing and strategic sales brilliance. Kristin, welcome to our conversation.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I am so excited to hear what we're going to discuss today because it is a little bit different, or a lot a bit different than some common wisdom. So tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to this set of beliefs and why it's so impactful.
I've been doing business, excuse me, a little frog in my throat. I've been doing business on my own since, believe it or not, 1979 in Silicon Valley. And I started out as an ad agency in Silicon Valley. And then when the Mac came out, my husband and I were partners. He was our designer. And I said, you know what? They're all going to go in-house and you ought to just retire. And he made things. He made things. These two speakers behind me are examples of his artistic plus engineering work. So he had a lot of fun after that. He really enjoyed himself. And I reinvented myself. I became what I called a revenue coach. Mm-hmm. Which my basic job was to teach CEOs and entrepreneurs how to make more money by understanding what their customers want to buy from them and how they want to buy it. So, excuse me, I developed methods and processes to make sure that they understood those things and were able to do it, and used that information. I worked out a method of interviewing your customers, which is very clearly spelled out in my book. And interviewing people after they've bought from you, you can gather bankable information that you can then turn into marketing campaigns that actually work. So that's really the basis of many decades of putting all this to work. The last career change, I guess, is what I'm doing now. In 2017, I noticed that a lot of established companies were having trouble with digital marketing. They were good at everything else, but they were really struggling with digital marketing. So I opened up a digital marketing agency, and we're kind of a boutique agency. We're very selective about who we take on, and we grow slowly on purpose because I want to be able to service them properly. Have a tight-knit team, and I've basically built a safe place for nice people to work. And it's been so successful, and everybody's so happy that I'm writing a book about this whole idea that this is really about taking care of each other. The book is going to be called Love, Leverage, and Logistics: How You and Your Business Can Change the World. So we just relaunched our website, and now I'm going full scale on getting that book done. So that's where we are now.
So I love the title, right? I am L cubed, and the triple L's, right? I love a good alliteration. I can honestly say that has everything to do with my parents both being English majors. And that's where I came from. So I will be the first one to buy the book because I absolutely love that.
Great.
The majority of what you start with, and it's an important principle, and I've talked about it with some guests along the way, that customer-centric knowledge, right? that knowing what your customers want from them, hearing it from them and learning is so much more impactful than assuming you know what they want. And so with your revenue coaching, yeah, that first bit of work that you did, that's probably the foundation for all of the knowledge that you have to put in the new book. I am fascinated that a Silicon Valley-based female business owner dating back to the 1970s has such an optimistic view of business. Will you tell us some of the stories? Tell us a story about, something that led you down this path of optimism, because we hear more of the stories that are very negative. How did you
Well, I
learn to
think
love
what's
your
happened
teams?
is, how did I what?
How did you learn to love your team?
Well, first of all, we have a no jerk policy. And so there's no jerk workers, there are no jerk clients. And if somebody turns into a jerk, I let them go. I even have a jerk test, which I'm not going to talk about right now because I don't want to give it away, but it works every time. I think that's well, it's not a small part, it's a very big part of our success. Now, I define a jerk as someone who makes life harder for other people on purpose. I mean, it's just what they do. They like making people uncomfortable. That's really a bummer for the people who are nice because they're just the opposite. They try to make life easier for everybody else. So if you have a company, a group of people meeting goals and trying to help the customer and everything, and that's what they do all day, you're going to make more money. Customers are going to want to buy from you. Your employees will be more loyal. Your partners will want to partner with you. Everybody will want to get on board your happy train. If you do what a lot of corporations have done, and by the way, I think this is way easier for people who own a business and they have control over the people they hire and all of that. When you work in a corporation, unfortunately, the bean counters have taken over.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't name companies, but companies that are having trouble right now with airplanes falling out of the sky and things like that, it's because they took their eye off the excellence pathway
Yes.
and the being kind pathway and the caring pathway and the taking care of each other pathway. And they just looked at the bottom line. And the problem with that is your customer doesn't care about your bottom line. Your employees do care in the sense they want the business to be successful and all that, but they really care, both the customers and the employees and the partners as well. They care about how you treat them. And corporations play some really dirty games now. People turn 50 and suddenly they're let go and then they're replaced by younger people. And I mean, they're just sort of gotten really ugly. And I think part of the problem is the popular culture. I mean, I was in show business for years. My whole family was in show business and I have a degree in music and everything. And I really didn't like the people in the business because it was all about ego and narcissism and, oh my God, I have a new wrinkle. I'm, you know, it wasn't about the other people. It was about me. And social media is that way too, by the way. I don't think that's helped. So I think what's happened is we have programs where people are really mean to each other in business, and the business owner is an absolute jerk. And everybody thinks it's that way everywhere. That has not been my experience. I've worked with hundreds of CEOs and entrepreneurs of mid-sized companies. And as long as I stay away from the jerks, which isn't that hard to do, it's a very pleasant experience. The jerks are the minority in those sizes of companies because the companies usually started because somebody sees a need, and really only the kind people see the need, and then they build a company to meet the need. So right away you've got the company on the right path. And as long as they don't start listening to the bean counters, they're okay.
And I love the point that you're making in that. And for this audience, it's important. Those examples of the CEOs that are the most detrimental to business are visible because they are the Fortune 500 type CEOs, and the media coverage amplifies what they're saying for the good, the bad, and the ugly of all of it. But
I totally
realistically,
agree.
right? Realistically, business in America in particular is not led by those companies.
Mm-mm.
Our economy is driven by the small and mid-sized business. And
That
so
is correct.
as we're working in that space, the impact and the ability to do the things that you're talking about is absolutely possible, and it is commonplace. But we have
Yep.
to take away the spotlight and the noise that is generated in the media and social media about the big guys. And I hate to say it, but they're dudes. And they're
Yeah.
out there pontificating things that are outmoded and don't work and haven't worked for decades. So you found
Agreed.
your niche in the middle market. You have found leaders that are solving problems for their customers and making the world better through their products and services, and
Yep.
building companies that have value.
Right. Exactly.
So share with us, if you could, one of your favorite stories about working with a client and the impact that you helped them have on their business and ultimately for their customers, because that's where the real measure of success shows.
There's my favorite story, which I'll tell you in a second, but there's also another story that's somewhat similar. I've had clients who read my book and then they call me and hire me. They drank the Kool-Aid and they got the idea that you're really supporting the buying process. I was one of the first people to say it's a buyer journey or a buyer process. It's your job to support it. It's not the selling process. And in fact, people don't like being sold to anymore. Anyway, I don't even know if they ever liked it, but back in the days of Sears catalog, where the only time you saw a salesperson was maybe once a year or something, maybe it was exciting, but nobody's there anymore. They're doing everything they can to avoid salespeople. So pushing doesn't work. What does work is switching from the sort of sales on commission, push mode to more of a customer service, customer support mode. And the people that actually interact with the customer. One of my clients did this, switched over to a customer experience team, and they're not on commission. They don't behave as if you have to buy from them. They'll actually be helpful to you no matter what you come to them with. Ironically, once he started doing that, sales did that beautiful hockey stick thing. So it really does work. There's another company. I just want to explain or maybe describe how this listening to the customer thing works. I had a company, was a software company, very smart guy, and they had built software for field service companies. So if you send a technician out in the field, I don't care what kind of business it was, or what, it was HVAC or whatever, but you had field technicians. This was a software program. You've run your whole business on this software program. They called themselves Pioneer Interactive, which didn't help them. And I went out and interviewed. First, I asked them what they thought was important, the company people, and they said, "Oh, we integrate with QuickBooks so elegantly. It's just beautiful." Okay, so I went out and I interviewed the customers and they were like, yeah, everybody does that. That's like, airplanes are supposed to fly, boats are supposed to float. It's a baseline industry promise, is what I call that. And so I came back to them and I said, look, what they really care about is that when they first start talking to a customer and they enter the information about that customer, the address and all that stuff, it automatically populates every other part of the program. Entrepreneurs and business owners hate entering data more than once. It's a terrible time waster. So that's what they thought was exciting. So we changed the company name to Field One. Out in the field, the fields are only entered once, enter it once, populate it everywhere. It was a beautiful umbrella concept. And they ended up selling the company, the entrepreneur ended up selling the company for many millions of dollars to Microsoft, stayed on. I don't know if he's still there or not, but Very big success story. They did extremely well once they got in the lane where the customers were.
It's so amazing in work that I do with my clients, right? The level of certainty that they express. This is what we do. This is why it's impactful. This is why our customers love us. And when you actually do the deep dive with the customers, none of those things ring true. It's one of the most fun aspects, and you have to love it too, right? I love those conversations.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Right, because you've popped a balloon, their whole universe and their reality is like collapsed around them. And it's we're out of the matrix. And now we can
Yeah.
actually do something that's meaningful. So talk to me about how you engage with clients and take them through, an experience to get them to where they're supposed to be in their customer-centric
Yeah,
journey.
they're scared of doing. I mean, here's the really odd thing about this. I've been whipping this horse for decades, okay? It's still amazing to me how few people actually interview their current customers. I mean, come on, you've got them in your database. They're willing to talk to you. They like you, or even if they don't like you that much, they'll still give you honest feedback. And I've developed a list of open-ended questions. They're all in the book. The book is completely, prescriptive. Everything you need to know about this is in the book. I wanted it to be a prescription, not just one theory with lots of examples, which is what most business books are. So I get permission to interview. And by the way, I only have to interview 5 to 7 people of a given type. So if you have 3 types of buyers, you do that 3 times. In order to get bankable information. Now, the good news is it's not me coming back and saying what I think. It's customers. So we do a transcription, I anonymize it, but it's here's what everybody said in answer to this question. So the executives, at first they're resistant, they worried, maybe my whole thing's going to be blown up or whatever, but it never turns out that way. Yes, they will be surprised at what their customers prioritize, but whatever they come back with, this is based on customer reality and company reality. And so it's not impossible to fix. It's right there in front of them. They just have to shift a little bit to get in the right lane with the customer. It's perspective. And perspective is everything in life. It really is. So once you've done this, it doesn't take more than a few weeks. You come back with a transcripted conversation report. And I also do a summary and recommendations report, which kind of bulletizes the whole thing. And then I come back with recommendations. And we have a meeting. We used to do it in person, but now we do it on Zoom. And we agree on what we're going to do next because of what we've now learned. And again, it's actually very reassuring because it makes so much sense. Everybody goes, "Oh, that's why they always say that." Or, "Yeah, I've had somebody say that, but it never kind of bubbled its way up to top management." Maybe the customer service people hear this 5 times a day, but it never really got up there as a priority. So it's not a difficult thing. It's actually a reassuring thing afterwards. You're so comfortable because now you know. And you're basically reverse engineering a successful sale so that you can create new sales and quantity. It's engineering. I've always loved engineering. I've always been a tech head. I just love this stuff. And it's a process, and it's very doable, predictable, and reassuring.
And one of the things that you said, and I want to highlight actually 2 points that you made through all of that for the audience so that they don't lose it, right? It starts with talking to your customers. You know who they are.
Yeah.
You know how to reach them. It starts with talking to them and asking intentional questions. But
Yeah, and listening.
some who love you, some who kind of like you. I personally love to pull in a couple that you really didn't serve well and get that story too. But that's the
Yeah,
number one thing
yeah,
we have to do, right? Talk to them and hear their voice, their story, and what that experience is. And
yep,
the other thing that you were talking through and what you described, right, and how I translate that, once you've gone through and done all of that work, the reassurance for the business often comes in the form of you've now made their entire business process simpler, because there was probably a tremendous amount of wasted time, effort, and money on things you thought were important that the customer doesn't care about. And so your
Exactly.
whole business gets easier, which drives profitability and not just revenue, right? You've gotten rid of waste. It's
That's a very
brilliant.
good point.
It's brilliant in
Yeah,
in its simplicity.
you focus on what matters. Customers buy your product. I mean, the whole world fell in love with AI once they made it available to the common man, so to speak. And I just watched the whole world kind of shut down last October, where they just said, oh, I've got to figure this out. Obviously, AI is taking over the world. And in a way, they're right. And in a way, they're wrong, because people still buy products. And if you're ignoring that and you're automating your assumptions, you do automated marketing and now you're automating your assumptions, you're just throwing more money away, which is a really sad, sad thing that people do. It's so I can't tell you. I know that there have been probably trillions of dollars wasted on marketing campaigns that did what that company did that I mentioned, where they were all over here. They were so proud of what they did with programming with, with QuickBooks. And the customer's like, yeah, fine. Everybody does that. They didn't care. They just shook it off, and what they really cared was over here. And so the website was saying this and their concerns. And I call it the mindset of the buyer when they set out to buy. Mindset is their desires, their concerns, and their questions. And if you address those three things on your site the minute they come, you've pretty much made the sale.
Absolutely. Talking about, right, AI has come in, and what you, as you were describing that investment, right, we're going through the revolution of AI, and that's
Yep. Yep.
fabulous. And it's going to be amazing, right? We are just at the very beginning. But part of these early steps, we're going to create things like super fast bad, right? Because we're automating bad things.
I love that. I'm going to give you credit, but I'm definitely going to quote you on that. That's good.
Super fast bad is going to be a part of our reality for a while, until we really start to leverage and understand what generative AI can do for our businesses, because there are things it will do well. There are large language models that will do amazing things, but we're still in the masses playing and experimenting and learning. And so it's going to be ugly before it gets pretty. With this on the horizon, Kristin, and with what you do and the businesses that you influence, what are the things in the future that you're looking forward to, the influence that you're making? What is the future view that you're building towards?
Honestly, I started out, my whole career has been based on helping other people realize their dreams. That's why I got into business and do what I do. But now I'm seeing something bigger, which is I really think my job in life, before I kick the bucket and die at my keyboard, which is what I've told people I'm going to do, is I need to bring the idea of love back into business. It's not about greed. It's not about selfishness. It's not about stepping on someone else to get what you want. It's about taking care. Love is simply this. It's taking care of someone else. I was 45 years married to my best friend who died from his second battle with cancer, fatal cancer. And that experience really taught me the power of love and how heavenly, literally heavenly, a marriage can be if you just work on taking care of the other person and you don't have any lines and you say, oh, well, if you don't do that, I won't do this, and keeping score and all that stuff. And we do that in business. People get angry at their customers, but customers are the source of everything. If you don't have customers, I don't care how much VC money you don't have a business. So I do think it's time, because of the influence of the media and social media, to just say, wait a minute, let's get down to the basics. This is about taking care of each other. And I really want people to understand how profitable You bring up the profit thing, but just how much your business can grow if you're the one who's taking the best care of the customer. That's it.
Kristin, we have gone through several things today that are so highly impactful. And the audience, we're talking about disrupting and innovating through love, which in business, right? I'm going to date myself, right? Gordon Gekko got it wrong. Greed is not good. But it starts at the beginning. You shared in your world, there's a no jerk policy. And we should all have a no jerk policy. In my sphere of friends, our language is a little bit randier than jerk. There's another word we use.
I used to
But
say the A word, but I gave it up. I
yeah,
just don't
so
swear anymore.
it's out there. We have all of that.
We know which word that is. Yeah.
We know.
Yeah.
We should all have this policy. It really isn't something that anybody should have to talk about, because as human beings with empathy and compassion, we shouldn't tolerate that type of behavior in any circumstance, personal, professional, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And in this experience, right, we talked about the power and the impact of customer centricity and what it means to really hear from your customers and the huge impacts that it can make in how you run your business, how your business is evaluated, and what your exit as the owner leader, right, can look like. And it is life-changing. Kristin, if you have piqued people's curiosity today and they want to learn more, where should they go to learn more?
Okay, first thing to do is just Google Kristin Zhivago, and I have done my job to dominate that area. Our website is zhivagopartners.com, and my book is called Roadmap to Revenue: How to Sell the Way Your Customers Want to Buy, and that's on Amazon in all of its formats. I do recommend the print version only because I take the buying process and I map it out, and I have these charts, and they really do best in a print book where you can open it and see it, the questions that people buy and all of that. I really dissect the buying process for you.
For the audience, all of those links and all of that will be in the show notes, so it's easy for you to find Kristin and the book, because it will be impactful. And audience, you know my rules. Don't get left behind. Join me next time.
That's it for today's episode of Disrupt and Innovate. Head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show.